Have you ever said yes to things you didn't want to do just to avoid conflict or judgment? Maybe you've agreed to plans that drained your energy or made choices that left you uneasy. If you've been there, you're not alone. I remember reconnecting with friends from high school, excited to rebuild those bonds after years apart. But soon the invitations turned into nights of gambling and heavy drinking, activities that went against everything I valued. Yet, I kept saying yes. Why? Because I feared being labeled different or unsociable. Every time I agreed, I felt worse, exhausted, wasting money, and losing my sense of self. Then one night, everything changed. A close friend of mine, drunk from one of those gatherings, got into a terrible accident. That was my wake-up call. It was time to stop, to say no, and to protect my peace. This video is about mastering the power of saying no. Together, we'll explore how to set boundaries, manage stress, and align your actions with what truly matters, using the timeless wisdom of Stoic philosophy. If this resonates with you, share your experiences in the comments below. Have you struggled to say no? How did you handle it? Your stories could help others find the courage to take control of their lives. Let's dive into this journey of growth and self-respect. 1. Understanding yourself and your values. What drives your decisions every day? Is it your values or the fear of judgment? This is the core of living a life aligned with inner peace and self-respect, and it's something Stoic philosophy teaches us with clarity. Focus only on what you can control, your actions and your beliefs. For me, that clarity came after I reluctantly joined my friends in activities that contradicted everything I believed in. Even though I was there with them, something inside me felt deeply unsettled. Why did I do it when I knew it was wrong for me? Was I living up to what I believed? I've always valued health, balance, and genuine connections. But those nights of drinking and gambling chipped away at all of that. I realized I was sacrificing my peace for the sake of fitting in. That contradiction weighed on me heavily, and it was the discomfort of betraying my own values that pushed me to change. This is the first step, understanding what truly matters to you. Take a moment to reflect on what brings meaning to your life. For some, it's family. For others, it's health, career, or personal growth. For the Stoics, it's virtue, the pursuit of wisdom, courage, justice, and self-discipline. Whatever your values are, let them guide your actions. The power of alignment. When your actions align with your beliefs, life becomes simpler and more fulfilling. You're no longer swayed by external pressures or temporary distractions. But when you act against your values, you create inner conflict, a battle between what you do and who you are. Here's the truth. The world will constantly test you. Invitations, obligations, and expectations will pull you in every direction. But the question is, will you stand firm in what you believe, or will you bend to the will of others? For me, standing firm started with identifying my priorities. I sat down and asked myself, what is most important in my life? What do I want to protect? This simple act gave me clarity. I realized I had been saying yes to things that drained me and no to the things that mattered most. How to start aligning your life. First, identify your core values. Write them down. Be honest about what truly matters to you. Next, reflect on your actions. Are they helping you uphold those values, or are they pulling you away? Finally, permit yourself to say no to anything that contradicts what you stand for. The Stoics remind us that you can't control what others think, but you can control what you do. That's where freedom lies. You don't have to explain yourself to anyone. You don't have to feel guilty for prioritizing your well-being. And you don't have to fear being labeled as different. If you're in a situation where your values are tested, stop and ask yourself, is this who I want to be? Pause, take a deep breath, and choose the path that aligns with your inner peace. The next time you're invited to something that doesn't sit right with you, respond with confidence and clarity. A simple, firm, I can't make it, but thank you for the invite is enough. You don't owe a long explanation. In my case, I began declining invitations politely but firmly. I found new ways to reconnect with friends, ones that respected my values and preserved my peace. It wasn't easy at first, but over time, it became empowering. Life becomes meaningful when your actions reflect your values. The discomfort you feel when you act against them isn't something to ignore. It's a sign, a call to realign with what matters most. So, take control. Choose to live authentically, and you'll find not only peace, but also the strength to face life with resilience and clarity. Remember, true freedom comes from within, and it starts by staying true to yourself. 2. Understanding the power of saying no. Saying no is one of the most powerful decisions you can make, yet it often feels like the hardest. Is it selfish to decline? To prioritize yourself? Stoic philosophy teaches us the opposite. Saying no is an act of self-mastery, a commitment to guard your time, energy, and inner peace against unnecessary distractions. Reflecting on my experience, I realized that every yes I gave to my friends, despite my discomfort, was a no to my values. I wasn't just participating in activities that didn't align with who I wanted to be, I was betraying my principles. The Stoics remind us that peace comes not from pleasing others, but from living in harmony with our core beliefs. Think of this. Every time you agree to something that doesn't align with your values, you lose an opportunity to focus on what truly matters. Picture someone who spends their evenings at social events they dislike, leaving no time to rest or grow, or someone who takes on every favor asked of them, eventually burning out. These examples show how a lack of boundaries erodes both energy and self-worth. Stoicism reminds us that saying no isn't selfish. It's necessary to live a virtuous life. By protecting your time and energy, you affirm what is within your control, your decisions and your actions. To the Stoics, the power to say no comes from understanding your priorities. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Saying no is a way to exercise that power. When you say no to what doesn't align with your values, you free yourself from unnecessary burdens and create room for meaningful pursuits. This is an act of courage and discipline, two central Stoic virtues. It's about choosing clarity over chaos, peace over pressure. So, how can you incorporate this principle into your life? Start by practicing mindful decision-making. Here's how to approach it thoughtfully. Pause before responding. When someone asks something of you, don't rush into a response. Take a moment to evaluate whether it aligns with your goals and values. The Stoic practice of reflection helps you act intentionally rather than react impulsively. Communicate with honesty. Once you've made your decision, deliver it with confidence and kindness. For instance, if someone asks you to take on more work than you can handle, you might say, "I'd love to help, but I need to focus on my current priorities to ensure they're done well." Mastering the art of saying no brings tangible and emotional rewards. Protecting inner peace. Your energy is preserved for what truly matters, reducing stress and overwhelm. Building self-respect. Each decision to honor your values reinforces your sense of self-worth. Strengthening relationships. Clear boundaries create respect and understanding in personal and professional connections. Stoicism teaches us to focus on what we can control, our actions, choices, and responses. Saying no is a direct application of this principle. By refusing what doesn't serve you, you prioritize your well-being and align with your inner virtue. Next time you face a request that feels wrong for you, stop and ask, does this align with my principles? Will it bring me closer to living a virtuous, meaningful life? If the answer is no, don't hesitate to protect your peace. The Stoics remind us that freedom isn't about pleasing everyone, it's about living authentically. Saying no isn't rejection, it's redirection toward what truly matters. And with each deliberate no, you grow stronger, calmer, and closer to the life you want to lead. 3. Learning to recognize signs of stress. Stress often sneaks up on us, quietly building until it takes a toll on our minds and bodies. But if you know how to spot the signs, you can take back control before it overwhelms you. Stoic philosophy teaches that recognizing and addressing these signals is key to maintaining your inner peace. It's not about avoiding challenges, but managing them with wisdom and composure. Every year, I lend my cousin my cherished pickup truck at the end of the year. His family struggled financially, and I wanted to help. But every time he returned it, there were damages, scratches, dents, even broken parts. At first, I simply reminded him to be careful and paid for repairs myself, thinking it was the right thing to do. But the pattern never changed, and his carelessness showed a lack of respect for what I valued. This year, I decided to say no. I couldn't allow my kindness to repeatedly stress me out. The decision wasn't easy, but it was necessary for my peace of mind. When should you say no? Recognizing when to refuse is crucial for protecting your energy and well-being. If you've ever felt stretched thin or emotionally drained, it might be time to reevaluate your commitments. Here are 2 clear signs it's time to say no. When you're overwhelmed, you're constantly exhausted, struggling to focus, or finding it hard to enjoy life. Perhaps you're saying yes to too many demands at work or personal obligations that leave no time for yourself. Overwhelm isn't a sign of strength, it's a signal that your resources are being mismanaged. When you're ignoring your needs, have you ever prioritized someone else's convenience over your well-being? Maybe you agreed to help a friend move even though you had other pressing matters. Or perhaps you stayed late at work, missing family dinner just to appease a boss. Constantly putting others first comes at the expense of your inner peace and self-respect. These moments of stress stem from not respecting your boundaries or values. The Stoics teach us that our peace comes from within, not from external approval. By saying no when needed, you preserve that peace and regain control over your life. Stress often arises when we try to manage what's outside our control, neglecting what's within it. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "You have power over your mind, not external events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This wisdom applies perfectly to moments when you feel overwhelmed by the demands of others. In my case, lending the truck repeatedly without addressing my cousin's lack of responsibility was a mistake. I was trying to control his actions, which only led to frustration. Saying no was an act of recognizing what I could control, my decision to lend the truck. If you're in a similar position, start by reflecting on your feelings. Stress and frustration are often signs that something needs to change. Here's how you can address these situations wisely. Acknowledge the problem. Don't ignore the signs of stress. Whether it's feeling overwhelmed, frustrated, or drained, recognize these emotions as signals that something isn't right. Focus on what you can control. Instead of trying to manage others' actions, focus on your decisions. For example, if someone continually disrespects your time or resources, ask yourself, what can I change to protect my peace? Make thoughtful decisions. Saying no isn't about rejecting others. It's about respecting yourself. Be clear about why you're refusing and stand by your choice. For instance, you might say, "I've realized I can't continue lending this because it's causing unnecessary stress for me." Stoicism teaches that your well-being is your responsibility. Stress is a sign that something in your life is misaligned with your values or boundaries. Recognize it as an opportunity to reflect, adjust, and act with purpose. Remember, saying no doesn't make you unkind or selfish. It's an act of wisdom and self-respect. Protecting your inner peace allows you to focus on what truly matters, and that's the foundation of a fulfilling life. So, the next time you feel that weight of stress, pause. Ask yourself, am I living by what I value? If not, take the necessary steps to realign. It's not just a choice, it's a path to freedom. 4. Setting clear boundaries. Setting boundaries is not about shutting people out. It's about protecting your inner peace and ensuring that your actions align with your values. Stoic philosophy emphasizes the importance of controlling what is within your power, and boundaries are a way of asserting that control. By defining what you will and won't accept, you take charge of your life and free yourself from unnecessary stress and conflict. After recognizing the stress caused by lending my truck every year, I realized the problem wasn't just my cousin's carelessness. It was my lack of boundaries. I allowed the situation to continue because I avoided confrontation, hoping he would eventually understand. But avoidance only deepened my frustration. This year, I decided to act differently. I had a calm conversation with him, explaining that while I understood his challenges, I couldn't continue lending the truck due to the repeated damage and its impact on my peace of mind. I set a firm but respectful boundary, letting him know my decision wasn't personal but necessary for my well-being. This wasn't easy, but it brought an immediate sense of relief. Boundaries are not walls. They are guidelines that help others understand how to interact with you. Without them, you risk being overwhelmed by the demands and expectations of others. In both personal and professional settings, boundaries foster respect and clarity, allowing relationships to flourish without resentment or guilt. For instance, Imagine a colleague who constantly interrupts your lunch break to discuss work. Without boundaries, you might sacrifice your only moment of peace during the day, leading to frustration and burnout. But by kindly stating, "I'd like to use this time to recharge. Can we discuss this after lunch?" you preserve your time while maintaining a respectful tone. The Stoics remind us that our peace is our responsibility. Epictetus teaches, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." This means you must accept that setting boundaries may not always be understood or appreciated by others. What matters is staying true to your values and protecting your tranquility. When you set boundaries, you are not rejecting others. You are rejecting behaviors or situations that threaten your well-being. This distinction is key. Stoicism encourages us to approach life with clarity and courage, and setting boundaries is an act of both. Boundaries are most effective when they are clear, consistent, and communicated with respect. Here's how to establish them in your life. Reflect on your values. Identify what matters most to you, whether it's your time, energy, or peace of mind. Let these values guide your decisions. For me, valuing peace and respect helped me recognize the need to stop lending my truck. Communicate clearly. When setting boundaries, be concise and respectful. Avoid over-explaining or apologizing, as this can weaken your position. Focus on the facts and your needs. Stand firm. Once a boundary is set, hold to it. This consistency builds trust and respect over time, both for yourself and for others. Setting boundaries is not a one-time act. It's an ongoing practice. You will face resistance, both from others and from your doubts. But as Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not external events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Boundaries help you exercise that power by creating a space where your values and peace can thrive. Think about a moment when you felt taken advantage of or stretched too thin. Now imagine how different it would have been if you'd set a boundary early on. You could have avoided the stress and preserved your energy for what truly mattered. When you approach boundary setting with the clarity and wisdom of Stoicism, you empower yourself to live with purpose and integrity. It's not about controlling others, it's about managing your responses and staying true to what you value most. So take that first step. Define your limits, communicate them confidently, and watch as your inner peace grows. 5. Developing effective communication skills. The ability to say no is not just about what you say, it's about how you say it. Stoic philosophy teaches us that effective communication is rooted in clarity, honesty, and calmness. Without these, even the best intentions can be misunderstood, and your boundaries can be ignored. Looking back, I felt trapped when I couldn't confidently refuse the invitations and obligations that drained me. I wished I could say no, firmly but kindly, without feeling guilty or causing conflict. That experience taught me the importance of developing the skill to communicate my boundaries clearly, a skill that is essential for maintaining peace in relationships and preserving your inner strength. Imagine this. You're overworked at the office, and your manager asks you to take on another project. You hesitate because you're already stretched thin, but you reluctantly agree, thinking you have no choice. Or perhaps a friend asks for a favor that requires time and energy you don't have. Instead of refusing, you say yes out of guilt. In both scenarios, you might avoid conflict at the moment, but the cost is far greater: resentment, stress, and frustration. This is where Stoicism offers profound guidance. How you express your no determines how others perceive and respect your boundaries. The Stoics teach us to respond to situations with composure and reason. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Be like the rock that the waves keep crashing over. It stands unmoved, and the raging of the sea falls still around it." This applies perfectly to communication. Your words should be steady and firm, but also respectful and kind. When saying no, the goal is not to provoke or defend, it's to assert your priorities in a way that fosters understanding. This balance reflects the Stoic virtues of courage, wisdom, and justice. Consider these two everyday situations. Workplace challenges. You're asked to work late again. Instead of passively accepting, you might say, "I understand the importance of this project, but I need to prioritize my current workload to ensure quality. Perhaps we can delegate or adjust deadlines." This response acknowledges the request, but firmly sets a boundary. Personal relationships. A friend insists on plans you can't commit to. Instead of making an excuse, try, "Thank you for inviting me, but I can't make it this time. Let's plan something for another day." This response is honest and respectful and leaves room for connection. Both examples demonstrate how effective communication doesn't just set limits, it strengthens relationships by fostering respect and clarity. Stoicism reminds us that controlling how we respond is within our power. Saying no is not an act of rejection, it's an act of self-respect. But for it to be effective, it must be delivered with sincerity and calmness. If you struggle with saying no, start by reflecting on your intentions. Why do you hesitate? Are you afraid of conflict, judgment, or guilt? Recognizing these fears is the first step to overcoming them. When you approach a difficult conversation, remember the Stoic principle of focusing on what you can control: your tone, your choice of words, and your mindset. Practice saying no with kindness but firmness. For example, if you feel pressured, take a breath and respond thoughtfully, rather than reacting impulsively. The next time you face a challenging request, pause. Think about your priorities and whether the request aligns with them. Then, communicate your no with clarity and respect. Remember, you don't need to over-explain or justify yourself. A simple and polite response is often enough. 6. Managing emotions when saying no. Saying no can stir emotions: guilt, fear, or even anxiety about how others might perceive you. It's natural to feel uneasy, but Stoic philosophy reminds us that emotions are signals, not masters. To live with inner peace, you must learn to acknowledge these feelings without letting them control your decisions. Mastering your emotions is not about suppressing them, but about responding to them with wisdom and self-control. When I finally decided to stop lending my truck, I felt a mix of relief and apprehension. While I knew I was making the right choice for my peace of mind, I couldn't shake the nagging guilt. What would my cousin think? Would he feel hurt or resentful? These questions lingered, threatening to overshadow my newfound clarity. But instead of letting those doubts take hold, I reminded myself of the principles I was honoring: my values, my priorities, and the Stoic lesson of focusing on what I can control. My response, not his reaction. In moments like this, managing emotions becomes crucial. Consider a professional example. Imagine your boss asking you to stay late to complete a task you had no prior responsibility for. You feel torn between your need to rest and the fear of appearing uncooperative. Saying no might evoke anxiety or guilt, but agreeing out of fear often leads to resentment and burnout. The Stoics viewed emotions as natural but transient. They taught that while we can't avoid feeling them, we can control how we respond. Epictetus reminds us it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. This wisdom is particularly relevant when dealing with the discomfort of refusing others. Instead of fearing guilt, use it as a moment of reflection. Ask yourself, why do I feel this way? Is it because I'm genuinely harming, or because I'm overly attached to how others perceive me? Often, guilt arises from misunderstanding your responsibility. Your job isn't to meet everyone's expectations, it's to live virtuously and in alignment with your values. When facing situations that challenge your emotional balance, take these steps to regain control. Acknowledge your feelings. Don't suppress emotions like guilt or fear. Recognize them for what they are, a natural reaction to stepping out of your comfort zone. This acknowledgement diffuses their power over you. Focus on your values. Reconnect with the reasons behind your decision. If your no aligns with your priorities, let that clarity guide you. For example, I reminded myself that preserving my peace was more important than temporary discomfort. Practice Stoic calm. Before responding, take a deep breath. This simple pause gives you time to reflect and respond with composure. Maintaining a calm tone and steady demeanor reinforces your decision. Stoicism teaches us to embrace discomfort as an opportunity to grow stronger. When you say no, and guilt or anxiety arises, view it as a test of your resolve. Each time you stand firm, you build emotional resilience, the ability to act in alignment with your values, regardless of external pressures. Think of a time when you agreed to something out of guilt or fear. Did it bring you peace, or did it leave you feeling drained and resentful? Now imagine saying no with confidence, knowing your decision protects your well-being. That's the freedom Stoicism offers, a life where your actions are guided by purpose, not emotions. Next time you feel torn about saying no, Pause and reflect on the bigger picture. Is your agreement rooted in genuine care, or is it driven by a fear of judgment? Choose the path that respects your values and fosters your inner peace. By managing your emotions, you not only reclaim control, but also create stronger, healthier relationships, built on mutual respect and understanding, rather than guilt or obligation. This is the essence of Stoic wisdom: to act with clarity, to protect your peace, and to live according to your principles. As we've explored, the art of saying no is more than a skill. It's a reflection of living with intention and integrity. Each time you understand your values, set boundaries, and manage your emotions with clarity, you move closer to a life of peace and purpose. Stoic philosophy teaches us that true strength lies in mastering what we can control: our actions, choices, and responses to the world around us. The lessons we've covered today, recognizing your priorities, communicating effectively, and saying no without guilt, are not just principles to ponder. They're practices to embrace daily. Like any discipline, this requires effort and consistency. Start small. Say no to one thing this week that doesn't align with your values. Reflect on how it feels to honor yourself and let that inspire your next decision. Remember, this is not about rejecting others, but about affirming yourself. It's about choosing what matters most and living in harmony with your inner beliefs. As Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not external events. Realize this, and you will find strength. So take these lessons into your life. Practice them in the workplace, at home, and in every relationship. The more you align your actions with your values, the more resilient and confident you'll become. Share your own experiences or challenges in setting boundaries in the comments below. Your story could inspire someone else to take control of their life. Let's continue this journey of growth and wisdom together.